You're listening to Rookie Pirate Radio, the official anime and manga podcast for InBetweenDrafts.com. I'm John Negroni.
And I'm Travis Hymas.
And today we're doing a manga recap. I can't even say it. I'm just so giddy and so nervous and excited for so many reasons all at once, but I'll say it anyway. We're doing a manga recap of One Piece chapter 1089, titled Hostage Situation. But to be honest, Travis, I don't think you're doing this podcast with you as a hostage situation, although I could just have Stockholm Syndrome.
At this point, it might be that.
I don't just want to talk about 1089. I feel like we do also have to talk about the Big Gear 5 episode in the anime after we're done.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's a nice little treat, nice little reward. Maybe we can... I mean, we do also have a break next week. I don't know if we could talk about that next week too. I feel like we would be able to do it in an episode though, honestly. So maybe not. But yeah. I'm just throwing it out into the wind.
Let's do the recap and see how we're feeling, because this is a pretty big chapter for Oda to give us in between breaks.
You're telling me. I mean, the main beats for this, I'm going to have to talk even faster than usual. But first, as usual, we will be discussing spoilers for the One Piece manga. You know how it is, all the way up until this chapter. So if you have not yet read chapter 1089, get out of here. Do that. Do it for free on the Viz website or Shonen Jump. Linked in the show notes as always. And remember, all new chapters are available to read for free up to 3 weeks after the official release, whenever you want, if you're a member of Shonen Jump, which we are and do recommend. And then this is the part of the show where Travis explains how you can talk to us, but it's a little different right now because our Discord currently is on pause as you listen to this. So we don't have invites to the Discord yet. That'll be hopefully opening up again soon. But Travis, isn't there another way that people can reach out to us?
You better believe it. If you do need to get in contact with us and you have not been able to join the Discord, and that will be back shortly, don't worry, you can send us an email at rookiepirateradio@gmail.com.
Oh, you're expecting me to say it again?
Oh, you're gonna ask, do I have to do it again?
I wanted there to be a pause because I wanted to see if you would. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to see what you would do on the fly.
Yeah, I was totally waiting for you to ask for it again. But
wait, what is the email again, Travis? It's rookie. What?
rookiepirateradio@gmail.com.
Wow.
You can ask for me to say it via email as well if you'd like.
But yeah, we'll have the Discord back up. But since we have so much to get to, I just want to get to these main beats. Are you ready, Travis?
I sure am.
I'm not. I don't know how you are, but okay. Cover. The cover is a reader request. I still don't know when we're going to get another cover story, if we'll get one anytime soon, but whatever. On to the chapter itself. It's fun. There's a cow. Sanji is in a window. Nami's Nami. All right. We open on Fuchsia Village. Fuchsia Island. Is it Fuchsia Island or Fuchsia Village? I'm so nervous.
It's Village.
It's Village. Fuchsia Village. Luffy's home, of course. His hometown. And we see the residents, including Whoopslap. Always love seeing him. Makino, and her baby, Makino, and they're reacting to the news of Garp vanishing on Pirate Island and Luffy being in trouble at Egghead Island. And then we cut to scenes all across the world, actually. We go to the East Blue, South Blue, West and North, also the Grand Line. We see a lot of familiar faces like Iceberg, Ivankov, and they're all being devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis, but no one knows exactly what's causing them. But we know. That's when we cut to what's left of Lucia Kingdom, although what's left of it is literally nothing, as we see a giant hole resembling the one under Eni's lobby. And the narrator explains that the hole will not fill up. An earthquake that was apparently caused by Leloucia's destruction at the hands of the Mother Flame and Emu has apparently caused the worldwide sea level to rise by about 1 meter. The narrator also explains that this has caused beaches and entire islands to sink into the ocean all over the world. And the ocean in general appears way more perilous right now than usual, so people can't easily sail across it, even in normally peaceful oceans like the East Blue. All right, that's enough gallivanting for 5 months, Travis. Were you nervous at this point that, wait, we're never going back to Egghead again? Because I remember reading this and being like, Travis is going to get so nervous. I'll let you react to that, but I'll finish off the main beats, though. We finally shift back to Egghead Island for real. And we start with Vegapunk's mechanized sea beasts. They're battling the big nation-sized fleet of 100 Navy ships, 30,000 sailors, and 9 vice admirals, most of whom we haven't met before, unless I'm mistaken. They're all led by Kizaru, with Saturn only being there in secret, as we find out later in the chapter. And speaking of Kizaru, he's chatting away with Sentomaru during the standoff siege of Egghead, and they talk a little bit about how it surprises Sentomaru to see his mentor figure coming to eliminate Vegapunk, revealing, as we already guessed by now, that Vegapunk derived the Pacifista's lasers off of Kizaru's powers. We even see a flashback to a younger Kizaru, Vegapunk, and Sentomaru during younger, friendlier times. But Kizaru ignores Sentomaru's pleas for sentimentality, noting that he's just a cog in the machine, and Vegapunk did this to himself for studying the Void Century. Anyway, we cut to one of the Vice Admirals debriefing Saturn on the current situation of the Straw Hats being barricaded with the Vegapunk Stella, the satellites, and the Four Seraphim, with the CP0 agents unaccounted for, and Jewelry Bonnie later mentioned and pretty much dismissed. So it's just kind of a recap on what's been going on, since it has been a long time since we've been here on Egghead, right? Now, it's been an entire day in the events of the manga for what's been going on in Egghead, and the Navy still can't get past the Labophase's defenses yet, though Saturn does order the Vice Admiral to eliminate the ship carrying the Egghead Island researchers who evacuated earlier. We next cut to Mary Joa getting a call from York, with Kizaru listening in as well. And despite being betrayed by the Gorosei, York, the Vegapunk satellite who sucks, makes another deal with them and convinces the Five Elders that she's useful and that they can't mess up the lab because it's the power plant that creates the mother flame that she sent to them. And so we learn, of course, that it wasn't Vegapunk who gave the Five Elders the mother flame. They promised to avoid hurting her and the lab and to make her a celestial dragon. But then she also asked them to come save her from Straw Hat Luffy. We cut to a glorious, delicious, no notes, double page spread of the entire Straw Hat crew hanging over York, listening in over the call, with Vegapunk, Rob Lucci, and Jewelry Bonnie also in the frame as well, with Luffy asking if they'll use York as a shield to escape. Break next week. And I said a lot there, and I didn't even scratch the surface. There's so much other stuff. Was there anything I missed, though, Travis, that you just got to be like, John, we need to put this out there right now. We cannot keep it silent.
There is one correction I would like to issue.
What did I do this time?
Not you. This is actually me. I'm correcting myself here a little bit. So we always, as you know, wait for the official Viz releases to come out, and then we sit down and we record this podcast. We don't plan anything really in advance when it comes to the manga recaps. We go in with the official material. Mm-hmm. But every once in a while, as a result of that, we're working off of the translations that Viz is using. And as history has borne out over the One Piece manga, sometimes that requires some corrections. In this chapter, we get one. We have gone from a previous translation, which we had done some speculation on regarding the mother frame, to the Viz now kind of lining up with a lot of fan translations and going with Mother Flame. So I'm assuming now that we can go ahead and proceed with that being the official word on the situation.
I take it as a Zoro Zolo thing, honestly.
More often than not, that is the case. Of course, the Zoro Solo thing is a good old-fashioned JoJo situation where we don't want to get sued, but but yeah, it's definitely one of those where it's like, it's just R's and L's are just, you're learning Japanese. That's a tricky letter to translate. Just
trying to say something with like an R, but it has to sound like an L, but it can't at the same time. It's maddening. Yeah. For those who don't know, I have been learning Japanese for a while, and I've been reading these in the original Japanese the last few chapters. And the people who translate this stuff are the most impressive people in the world, because there are so many meanings. There's so many puns here that it is amazing to me that they're able to settle on what Oda intends, quite honestly.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think this is a mistake that they're correcting as much as it's a, hey, we thought it was this. We now have more information. There's more clarity in this chapter.
Yeah, it's so understandable. It's so unbelievable. I think if people are like, how could you make a mistake like that? It's like, you have no idea. Quite easily.
This is almost certainly hey, I would even imagine one of the assistants or Shueisha reached out and was like, hey, you know, here's some more details, or again, maybe it's just the, you know, I haven't read the original Japanese, so maybe just the language is more clear this time around. That's happened a ton in One Piece. Not a big deal, but it is important to call out since we have speculated on that previous name.
By the time it gets to the anime, it's all going to be, you know, figured out and settled, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the anime team actually gets clarification on things.
Yeah,
we are left.
Well, that's
to
the thing
guess.
is like by the time you get to the anime, like enough time has passed where, yeah, I think that Oda and his team have kind of settled on what they want to do, right?
Yeah.
But look, Travis, I mean, we cannot. I mean that double spread of the Straw Hats, like. Tell me you felt something. Tell me.
You asked if I was getting nervous, and at first I was like, yeah, a little bit, because I want to check on my kids. Are they well? Are
I
they
left
hurt?
them at daycare for 5 months.
Have they been eating? And this spread answers all of these questions at
They're
once.
eating
It's
all
incredible.
of York's food, apparently. Yeah. Now we should point out, like, we have all 10 Straw Hat members accounted for. We don't see any of the satellites. We don't see Kikaku. We don't see Stussy. So there are a few people who aren't there, but I think that that's just like because it's hard to fit that many characters. I'm not reading into that at all.
They're in a round room, so you can only capture so much.
But let me just, and then I think that they're like, okay, well, if we show Lucci and we show Vegapunk, that kind of implies the rest, right? Now, all that said, I'm sorry. I have to point this out because like looking at this like double spread and seeing all the Straw Hats and like everything that was going on like during the death game, and they were all on like different levels and fighting and blah, blah, blah. They off-screened an arc, Travis. Oda off-screened an arc.
It is one of his greatest jokes.
It is one of the best things because I know like we were talking about this just last time we were doing a manga recap. You're like, how in the world, like all this momentum that's been building, like going all over like the new world and like everything with, you know, Eustace Kid getting destroyed, Law losing to Blackbeard, Garp getting taken down. And you're just like, we're going to go back to Egghead and we're going to, oh no, like, what are we going to do? York, yikes. And it's like, who cares? It's like, how are they going to, we knew that like the interesting stuff was going to be what we're seeing now, which is the Marine siege. And so Oda was just like, yeah, the Straw Hats won. Of course they did. Duh. And so like we have no idea what happened. He's probably just going to use a bunch of strategic flashbacks to be like, oh yeah, Vegapunk was found and then he commanded the Seraphim with the Denden Mushi, blah, blah, blah. The fights ended and everybody regrouped. Here they are. It's going to be something along those lines maybe. I love this so much. It's perfect.
It is the greatest indicator. Like forget Gear Fifth for a minute. Forget the bounties. Forget power scaling. Nothing truly establishes the level that the Straw Hats are playing at now, quite like their storyline getting off-screened, because that's what the powerful people get in this story. They get off-screened. Their exciting thing gets to happen during the time skip or in a cover story, or we get caught up about it in the news later and have to do flashbacks. No. The Straw Hats got off-screened. That's how powerful they are now. We don't need to see every single minute anymore. We understand. So that's it's such a great gag because it's exactly what everybody probably would have expected to see. I think I even speculated that like that's kind of what happens is we just find ourselves in a situation where it's, oh yeah, no, we're caught up now. Yeah, you're caught up to real time. Here's what happened, and just kind of info dump it. So that's fun. I also want to point out that this is more or less the first time that the Straw Hats have had a direct line to figuring out what is actually happening in this story.
Yeah.
Ever.
Like a connection to like the stuff with the Five Elders and like apparently like what happened with the Mother of Flame, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't mention the Lucia, but yeah.
Right. This is the moment, and imagine if one of the elders had let it slip at all.
Ooh,
that like something else was being asked for. I mean, most of the Straw Hats are a little bit goofy, but like you've got Nami sitting there putting the pieces together right now. Vegapunk is in the room. Robin is probably on the other side of the room, staying as far away from Lucci as possible, and taking notes, I'm assuming. Like, this is the first time that like the Straw Hats have come anywhere close to the things we speculate on the regular, which is so weird. And what a bizarre way for those two things to finally converge. And of course, Luffy isn't going to care about any of it. He doesn't care. You could tell him straight to his face that like his fruit is the Hito no Mi, and he'd be like, but I already call all my attacks Gum Gum. I'm not changing them. I don't care.
One thing I'm curious about is, so we see when York is like, come save me before Straw Hat Luffy kills me, pretty close to what it is in the Japanese. And the reactions of the Gorosei, like I thought it was because I wasn't translating it correctly, but I was a little bit thrown. I was like, why are they so surprised by her asking them to save her? Because like, of course she's an enemy of the Straw Hats, or like maybe they thought that she was going to win, because in the page before they were saying that like, oh, Vegapunk is allied, with the Vegapunk satellites, except for York or whatever. And so maybe they just didn't know that like Straw Hat Luffy had the upper hand, but it's still, you still have that shot, that like picture of Kizaru being like, what does this mean? So then my other wonder is like, oh, are they able to piece together that the Straw Hats have heard everything, right? And because then they start talking and they're like right by the transponder snail. I forget the range on that thing. Like, I don't know how likely it is that like by her saying that they realize that they're in the room and they now know like more of the situation. What was your read on that though?
That's exactly how I read it.
Okay.
Again, Nami comments and goes, okay, yep, that's how this all fits together.
Yeah.
And again, this is me saying, oh, the Straw Hats are now actually on a collision course with the movement of the world. Yeah. Not just by sheer happenstance, but like, oh, now at least one of these characters that we follow has heard these words. Usopp has his hands on his little headset there. It kind of seems like he's tapping it. Just kind of the realization that York is here making deals. She's talking a big game. They're willing to play along. They think they have the situation under control. Mm-hmm. And then she panics and says Luffy is going to kill her, which, Luffy's never done. So that's also kind of an interesting little detail. But this is kind of the realization that she might not be having all the cards that she says she's got. Yeah. And so now they've created the situation where they've now cut a deal, not knowing all the pieces. The Straw Hats might have information that they cannot allow them to have. Do they know Kizaru's listening in? That's also a question. But yeah, at the very least, it does seem like Nami is retaining some information here.
And she's got a little gun.
Yeah, she's got a little gun.
They've been there for a day. Who knows what they have, like, what secrets and power-ups they now have, thanks to Vegapunk.
Yeah, he's all packed up and ready to go. You're like, okay, we're done here. It's time to do our requisite. Like, this is the party scene. It's really what it seems like.
Yeah, we're in the middle of the party scene. There's even Sanji in the background, bussing tables.
Yeah, it's exactly perfect. What it is.
I don't know what I guess Chopper and Frankie are just eating. Like, they're just kind of like hanging.
Yeah, they're just hanging.
Yeah.
They're just hanging. I mean, most of the crew just lets, the smart people make the decisions anyway. Let's be honest here. I mean, they don't need to worry. Jinbei doesn't need to worry. There's Zoro right there, sword in hand, making sure York doesn't move. Clearly, this wasn't a problem for them. They're just chilling. But yeah, the Gorosei effed up. That's clear. They should not have said what they said.
And we can see too, right, that the Seraphim, they're also not in this frame, but they appear to be under control as well, because now they have Vegapunk there. And we see that, like, it looks like Luffy and them, like, Usopp too, Zoro, like, they're a bit banged up. Like, it looks like they had some injuries, but they handled the Seraphim. Like, we could surmise that they put up a good fight, maybe defeated the Seraphim. Whatever the case, I mean, it really is remarkable to see that, like, that it was just so unimportant to the like fabric of the story that we can just jump to this. And also we now have Bonnie post Kuma flashback, so that also raises some speculation for me of like, well, when's that gonna happen? Because we kind of skipped over that too, right? I want to know what happened, because she's apparently fine with Vegapunk now, so she understands now, like, okay, Vegapunk's not an enemy. So yeah, I'm curious, like, when the story is going to get to that, because that feels like such a huge loose end. We still don't know what's going on with Kuma at Marijois right now, right? It's been a day, so we can assume that that's been handled as well, right?
Yeah, I think we're still due for that. I think we're going to get it because we do get a little teeny morsel earlier in the chapter when Jay Garcia Saturn is getting his status update.
Mm-hmm.
And it's brought up that Jewelry Bonnie is on the island. And he knows her identity, her true identity as Kuma's daughter, and specifically says, at least in the Viz translation, that she has no more benefit to us.
What was the benefit before, right?
So that, obvious answer is they threatened her, right? And that's why Kuma went along with whatever he went along with. That's the implication.
She is the other hostage, implicated or indicated in this chapter by hostage situation.
That's kind of what it sounds like. It's almost one of those where it's almost too simple to be that answer, but at the same time, some people have taken this section to talk about like maybe she's a lot younger than it's implied because he says she's just a girl. I read that more as no, that's Saturn being older than we realize.
Yeah, and I think it's been confirmed what her real age is. Based on like some stuff we've seen in this arc where like I don't think she like said outright that it was her real age, but something about the way that her powers work.
We don't know what her devil fruit actually is, but I believe there's a Vivra card out there for her with that info. So
gotta collect them all.
Yeah, so Oda's probably got that locked in. I'm not too worried about that much. But the implication that the Gorosei have had business with her in the past, we know that she has been able to get into Mary Joie pretty easily, all things considered. She just waltzed in there more or less, and knew where she was, what she was doing. The implication that is being that she's been there before, and that makes sense now with what we do know. So I do think that eventually this will come back up and come back around. It might even be a situation where Saturn is forced to directly intervene, not necessarily using powers or anything, but take control of the Seraphim, for example, and she's the one who identifies him, which is notable. There's only a couple of people currently on Team Straw Hat that could do that.
Now that Lucci has overheard what's going on with the Gorosei and how much he doesn't matter, do we have our 11th Straw Hat member? He's friendly. Yeah, that whole thing where Luffy's just like, don't try to assassinate my friends because you can't beat me. Apparently that didn't amount to anything because, he's in the background. He doesn't have any handcuffs on. It looks like he's allied with the others. No sign of Kikaku yet, but what's his name? Is it Kikaku? I forget.
It's Kaku.
Kaku, just Kaku, sorry.
Yeah.
Lucci, he was an ally all along, huh?
That's the interesting thing for me is he's just hanging out there, and these are his bosses. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. I don't know that they're necessarily writing, like, I don't think in the call they're writing him off for him to hear, but it's definitely there's definitely something going on where he's at least made the decision that it's safer to go out with these guys than it is to try to pick a fight with Luffy again.
Well, yeah, because we can recall that he has been burned by the world government before, multiple times. And so he has every reason to sort of do the Kuzan thing. Like maybe he's the Straw Hats version of Kuzan, where he's so disillusioned by everything, I wanted to point out, too, that it's interesting how this is aligning with the anime, which right now the latest episode has, the shot of our first, gear awakening with Luffy, and you see blink and you'll miss it, like Rob Lucci moment, and it's just interesting how that's aligning with the clear Enies Lobby vibes we get in this chapter as well, right? The whole Lucia Kingdom. I think the obvious speculation we can make, the assumption we can make, is that the Mother Flame is based off of an ancient weapon, which we already assumed. And I didn't even consider before that was an Enies Lobby thing, right? That Enies Lobby had been, originally an island destroyed by an ancient weapon. And so that had caused the sea levels to rise, because that made me think of Wano as well. Because what happened with Wano, right? Wano used to have an entire, thing underneath it that's now underwater.
And they built walls. It's not just underwater, it's underwater with fresh water. So whatever happened to cause them to build those walls, they knew. That's why everything underneath is preserved, including the Pluton, because it's fresh water.
Yeah, we're getting more and more bits of Void Century.
It's coming together slowly but surely. It's coming together. Which, I mean, side note, that's such a horrifying reality. I don't think, and I was literally in high school when Enies Lobby was happening real time, but at the time it just seemed really cool and threatening, in so much as like, this is a place where there's literally a chasm. It's supposed to be this place where you pass through and you're never seen again. Like that, it was always an implicit threat just in its design, and that kind of what makes the environment of Enies Lobby cool, despite being effectively just a government building. But now there's this added reality that, like, whatever this weapon is, whether it's Uranus, whether it's something else, whether it is effectively a nuclear weapon, they're just punching holes into the world of One Piece. There have been talks before about, like, theorizing that, like, the Red Line was built by someone as a way to divide the world. There's I don't know if you've seen recently the pole reverse theory that was dropped in Japan. A YouTube channel has gone to great mathematical lengths to theorize that the One Piece world as we know it has gone through a pole reversal, and that's why certain things are the way that they are. Like
with the log poses and the...
with the log poses, with how days go. A lot happens in a day of One Piece. Things like that. Just very extensive theory. But what we do know for sure is you can't just punch a bottomless hole into the planet and not have consequences. And that's now something that could potentially happen on the regular. This is not just the Straw Hats are going to get caught by the Marines. We're talking about potentially
worldwide destruction.
And I think it's notable that Oda specifically notes how much the water levels raise. This is, I don't usually do a whole lot of research going into these, but I did do some for this chapter because I didn't want to miss anything, and so much happened. That 1 meter, that water raise that he calls out with the narrator, is about the expectation if we don't, in the real world, start doing a lot of drastic things to deal with climate change. Like, this is very, very aggressively, like, the world is being undone by these actions.
Yeah, I think for me, I've long sort of seen him, even aside from the nuclear stuff, like Hiroshima and specific, history, right? Like, I think he's always kind of tied that type of thing with climate change, sort of being our kind of modern day version of like a nuclear arms race of like, this is an existential threat in the way that nuclear weapons have always been an existential threat since the 1940s, right? And so you can see that all over the story, to the point where, the idea of like all these islands flooding and the worldwide consequences, like, I think for a long time people have assumed, or maybe theorized, that the world of One Piece was flooded. But we've always kind of wondered, like, well, how was it flooded? How'd you do it? How did you build the Red Line? It's made out of indestructible material, right? And I think that this gives us a hint to how that might have happened. If there were ways to raise the sea level to submerge islands this much, an island like Wano, so that to the point where, like, what if every island itself is connected to like a continent underneath the ocean? And there's something about that connecting to, for example, the One Piece, right? I think that we should also point out some of the most popular theories out there. Specifically, think about how Enies Lobby, very close in proximity to Skypiea. There's the theory that the skull shape of Skypiea, where the missing eye, the hole, Travis, a hole for a missing eye, is where the island of Laugh Tale is, what that is, essentially. And if you have a situation where it's literally on the other side of the world, and it's like there's an underground like continent or something, that could explain like why the poneglyphs are relevant, because maybe that continent is made out of the same thing as the Red Line, and maybe there's all things like this opens up so many things for us, Travis. You see that hole in the manga? That's like the wide range of possibilities.
Yeah, it opens up so many doors to speculate on. And again, this is one of those things where Oda
It's a
knew
plot
we
hole.
were going on break. Yeah, we Oda knew
Oda's
we were
plot
going
hole.
on a break because all of Jump is going on a break next week. So that's this was kind of just unintended
It's like the
consequences.
Goban week, or there's
Yeah.
not Golden Week, but it's another one of their holidays. Yeah,
Yeah, one of the few times Jump writers get a break, so we'll take it. But
bless them and peace them.
But he knew, right? So again, this is paced in such a way to finally give us, what we really want, which is to check in on Egghead, but also
check in on Whoopslap. You mean?
Yeah, check in on Whoopslap. I do want to talk about him in a second, but with the fact that the world can now be demonstrably impacted in such a way, I think a lot more of these theories about islands moving or disappearing, or the idea, honestly, so that pole theory that I was bringing up, and I'm gonna have to send you this because I thought it was so fascinating. This pole theory suggests that the Grand Line moved in the opposite direction prior to the Void Century, which would make the starting point of the Grand Line Lodestar Island, which would put the entire perspective of where Laugh Tale is in an entirely different place, because you would be starting at the beginning instead of the end, which would then answer why Crocus is hanging out where he is, to see who figures it out and comes back, that kind of thing. Those kind of things where like something radical could actually shake the world, that's been demonstrated now. That's very easily. There's some theories that like Lulicia is at the bottom of this pit. I don't think it's that. I think they punched a hole through the world with the core.
Simple answer.
That seems simple answer's obvious. And of course, this is a world where our main protagonist is literally Bugs Bunny, so anything can happen. But there's something just so menacing. It's a big Made in Abyss situation. You want to know what's at the bottom of that hole.
Hey, I just started Made in Abyss. No spoilers.
No spoilers, but like the potential there is so broad. It begs the question, like, if they do get a way to produce these mother flames, what is Emu's plan here? Is it just to do the arms race thing and do a Cold War and just kind of maintain power? That seems kind of pointless because they already have it. Mm-hmm. They have it in the means to destroy most pirates. So I question a little bit about what the point of this beyond just amassing power is. I'm assuming that there's something he wants to do to the world physically that would require multiple activations of this.
Yeah, I just hope we're not going to get like a Naruto thing where it's going to be this really hacky sort of, you're all going to fall under the spell of the moon. And you're like, okay.
Look, okay, at least Oda introduced Emu now and not like 40 chapters before the end of the story, all right? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt on this one.
Fair enough. We get some drive-by cameos across One Piece world. We see Laboon. Laboon's still kicking. We knew he'd be fine. He's gonna outlive everybody. We see Iceberg. Love him. He's Chad. And we also see because I mean, how could we go a chapter without thinking of Momonosuke back on Wano? I have to keep bringing up that Wano, I think we got to get back to like something Wano related has got to kick off here soon. But that's a conversation for another day. And also, you wanted to talk about Whoopslap, but I want to talk about Makino's baby. The next Figureland heir.
They're not showing his face now. That's interesting.
You see his face when he's crying.
Kinda.
A little bit. And he loves Big Bro Luffy,
which is weird. Is that weird to you? It's weird to me.
I don't know. I mean, Luffy's Joy Boy. That's like his job.
That seems to be like the implication is like just Luffy's presence kind of brings joy, but like this kid didn't exist when Luffy left.
That's true.
So it's kind of just an interesting thing there that's stuff Oda drew
is
to
Whoopslap,
kind of implicate a connection.
Is there something else with Whoopslap? He kind of has this look on his face after all the stuff with the sea level stuff happens. He's looking out, and I'm like, is there a secret to him? Like, is he? I'm not saying he'd be like on Roger's crew or something, but like
he's Scopper Gaban.
No, I mean,
No,
there's got to be something there, right?
He knows more than he lets on, because Whoop Slap has been used to deliver very distinctive lines over the course of One Piece. Famously, as Luffy gets his early bounties, and people talk about the waves he's making in the world, and he very ominously at the time says, is it is it luck or is it his fate? I think given that we can easily presume that Whoop Slap is not just aware of Garp but knows him. This is Garp's home as well. It really suggests to me that he might be one of those characters who's lived long enough to see stuff like this before.
Yeah, I just wanted to
because God Valley disappeared. And I think at this point is a safe enough argument to make that wherever God Valley was supposed to be, there is a big hole now. And Whoop Slap would have been alive for that. Not only would Whoop Slap have been alive for that, he would have had a drunk Garp back at home now complaining about how they want to give him a promotion and make him the direct dog of the world nobles, and he doesn't want it. That sounds like a thing that could easily have happened. So I'm not saying he's like an actual Roger crew member or anything. I don't think he holds the secrets, but I do think he has been alive long enough to recognize that the destabilization of the world that kind of existed during Roger's time that we know about, like that threat, is now looming again. Yeah, for some reason. I think he's kind of our omen bearer for that.
Yeah, we saw him not too long ago, right, during Reverie. So he pops in. It's not like it's been ages, but although to be fair, the Reverie parts that we saw him in were, I guess, 5 years ago. So I mean, in relative to One Piece, that's not that bad, is it? So, okay, we have all the worldwide devastation stuff. We see Ivankov, of course, best friend of Ivankov. And I did want to mention with Kizaru and the Vice Admirals. First of all, the Vice Admirals look pretty intimidating. There's only one here I recognize. I mean, am I missing anything, though? Have we seen any of these Vice Admirals before?
I mean, we're almost certainly going to get a correction, but outside of Dahl, I do not know.
Yeah, I'm blanking, and I haven't seen anybody else identify them either. So I'm feeling pretty confident that that's the exposition for that is yet to come. They look pretty intimidating, though. I mean, which I'm happy about.
They sure do, because I mean, there's 9 of them and an admiral.
Yeah, it is a composite, right, for the 1v1 Straw Hat Pirates.
Kind of. That's kind of what it looks like. It's one of those things where we kind of weren't sure. How long does Egghead go? There's 9 intimidating looking admiral or vice admirals and an admiral.
Yeah, there's even one for Sanji, Dahl.
Yeah, right. That would be a funny one.
We got one with a sword for Zoro. Yeah. We got the one that Sanji will actually fight.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
One that kind of looks like Jinbei almost.
Yeah, the fishman who also has a sword, interestingly. But yeah, that'll be, I don't know if we're actually going to do the breakdown, do 1v1 fights. Again, we just skipped a whole arc, kind of. We just off-screen some stuff. So I question if this is just Oda, hey, I've got some cool design ideas and I need a place to put them situation, or if we really are going to break into fights. If we're breaking into fights, Egghead's going to take forever. That's kind of where we're at now.
I'm very happy that Kizaru is back into the story a bit more, because I've always been fascinated by his lackadaisical sense of, like, his lazy justice or unclear justice or whatever it is. And I know we've already likened a lot of this arc to Sabati Archipelago, but I mean, that's just ever bolstering that, right? That he was, of course, the marker of, like, the Straw Hats being separated out by Kuma because they stood no chance against him. And at this point, I think that we can fairly guess that, Kizaru, he's not the same level of threat that he used to be, but I think that there is maybe like a story element here to his downfall, maybe not in this arc, but to come, where he is just sort of like going along with things that he knows are wrong. He's like the evil bureaucrat of the admirals, I guess. And like, even in the face of Sentomaru, somebody you would assume that he kind of cares about, and Vegapunk as well. And just being like, but I got to kill you. Oh, well, and he's just like, oh, you could surrender. But it comes off more as like he wants that. It's more of like a favor to him, like less effort that he has to go to. So I can see the groundwork for him getting some kind of comeuppance here, right? And for this turning into a bit of a thing. Some people even speculated that this is where the Grand Fleet might come in, right? Because they know that Luffy and the others are in danger because of the news. And so, Travis, I'm going to put out one more, like, what's the pirate version of a Buster call? We'll put that out there for the Straw Hat Grand Fleet to pop into action. How likely? 1 out of 10 likelihood or 2?
So I think what will trigger the Grand Fleet's action, if we're going to bring them into the story where they're actually going to overlap with the Straw Hats, it's got to be the Vivre card. It just, something has to happen to Luffy to force them into action. That would be just because with that, how that's been established as an item in the series, how it's been leveraged before, and how it was very blatantly given to each of them. I think, it's not just going to be they see the news and think, oh, Luffy needs help. To them, they're going to see Emperor Luffy takes over Egghead Island and takes Vegapunk hostage. And they're going to be like, that's our boy. Let's go. But again, we've speculated before that this might not go as well as we think. And that might be what spurs them into action, especially since at least 2 members of the Grand Fleet are very explicitly on the world government's crap list.
Yeah.
For committing the same sin that Luffy did once. So, I mean, maybe...
And also the Grand Fleet doesn't stand a chance against that. I mean, it would just have to be some sort of like distraction or whatever. But, we'll find out.
It would be interesting. I mean... again, it's one of those things where I don't think this has been set up as a situation where they're just here to get KO'd and then move on. There's definitely something brewing. I just think that we need kind of a more serious situation for Luffy to be in to spur them into assistance. Especially since Luffy very specifically does not want to be their boss and will not call them. He's kind of made that clear.
Right. Yeah. We I wanted to mention too, because Saturn, when he reappears in this, he is referenced as the godhead of defense. We've seen him previously referenced as the warrior god of science and defense. And I never put a ton of stock in the defense stuff, but I just wanted to point out the sort of irony, I guess, of like the one who is sort of in charge of defense, or at least tangentially, is the one leading a huge offensive against this island. You know what I mean? I just thought that there was something a little bit, I don't know if poetic is the right word for that, but yeah, I mean, this doesn't seem like the kind of thing that you call upon Saturn for, except that he has such clear ties to Vegapunk for reasons.
No,
I think
I would argue that that's exactly the opposite, because this is how it is in the real world. We, here in the States, we have a Secretary of Defense. We don't have a Secretary of War.
Yeah.
That's kind of, and that, I don't think that this is explicitly a commentary on the United States, though anytime you start tiptoeing towards references to the nuclear bomb, you kind of have to consider that, because this is obviously, regardless of Oda's politics, he's going to have a different opinion of it than a lot of Americans. But countries the world over, they have ministers of defense, they have secretaries of defense.
Yeah.
There's not really, you don't have, war is not their job, but that's the implication here. Mm-hmm. I think is Saturn is the minister of science and defense. What that means is it's Saturn's job to get this mother flame working. That's what his job is.
This mother effing mother flame.
Yeah, exactly. That's like he is supposed to he's supposed to seek the old science, basically, of the ancient kingdom, and that's kind of where we've kind of centered all of this, and to leverage that for power. The best defense is a great offense, is basically what this is implying. So I think it makes perfect sense. It's supposed to be ironic. You're supposed to go, hey, wait a minute. And you're supposed to think, oh, wait, maybe war bad. That's it, really, I think.
Oppenheimer is in theaters now, in case you were unaware.
Good movie. But it's true. Speaking of Saturn, though, there is something I kind of clicked in on as he's getting his little recap here and munching. By the way, I love that everybody's taking a lunch break here. It's like they know this is going to go long, so they're all taking a snack break here. Really, really respect that little parallel. But he's reading the newspaper that Morgan sent out with the headline that we're familiar with. And he says, I like this article. and they tell him, that's Morgan's work. And what a brilliant bird. What a brilliant bird.
That's how he keeps them.
Exactly.
He knows that, he can't fully oppose them, but yeah.
And then immediately after, Saturn's like, okay, now what's the truth? Like, he knows Morgan's is full of crap even, but Morgan's is playing the long game.
He's useful.
Here. Because if he's running the propaganda that pleases the Gorosei, that's going to be the last place they go looking for the 2 living people who know about Emu. You know what I mean? Like we saw Vivi yelling at Morgan's about that headline, which was what revealed that to us. But it's such a brilliant play because now that is going to be the last place on Earth that they look. Because he, at least, regardless of what the truth is or anything else, he at the very least is willing to say what they want to hear.
Yeah, he can say, he knows that, like, pirates don't mind the infamy. They don't mind the sort of, like, the world government being on their tail. So it's like, yeah, it's a win-win for him. Yeah,
it is genuinely clever. And I think we kind of even, guesstimated that was the case, but it's very fun to see it work. Just like completely work, because why now? Why would they suspect the big journalist bird to be doing investigative journalism into them? Why would they think that? He's printing what they want to hear. So that's so good. Even though they know he's full of crap with these headlines, that I what a great demonstration from all sides of that equation. I love it.
I did want to bring up, so again, we don't know when the Blackbeard pirate showed up over the course of these events. So we don't know if they showed up before the Navy did, and we don't know if they're going to show up after. We don't know if they are somewhere around right now. Now, we can assume that they're not, because there are 100 ships surrounding the island. But I did have the thought that maybe because we saw that the researchers were evacuated, that maybe the Blackbeard pirates might have infiltrated that ship, right? Now, if you only have Katarina Devon and Lafitte like on that ship, the only other, and also Pudding, I think you could make the case that like they went to Vegapunk Island for some sort of like secret mission, using their devil fruits to sneak in or to steal some research, do something. But I think it is relevant that they have Pudding with them, and I think that if they were able to basically take that ship for grabs and have these egghead researchers hostage, or using them for those purposes, that would be a huge win for Blackbeard. It would mean that they didn't have to go into the island at all, but they could probably see that the island is under siege and noped out of there. That's kind of what I'm running with for now. I'm not sure what else would really make sense, because I also don't think that, we're going to get a situation where that ship is just going to get destroyed, right?
Yeah, so my alternative theory to this is, while what you're saying makes perfect strategic sense, this is the Blackbeard pirates we're talking about here, right? They're going to do the underhanded thing. What's the underhanded thing? It's sneak onto this island and wait.
I don't know, because I think the underhanded thing is also stealing the ship when that wasn't really the plan, because they're good at improvising.
Right. You could even say that they did both. Just because Saturn says destroy the ship, it's been identified, so we'll see how that plays out. If the ship fights back, that'll tell us for sure.
I can't see them deciding, like, there's no way they could slip past this blockade. And, like, if they wait, it's like, yeah, I don't know. It seems like they're going to...
Lafitte walked into Mary Joie and without any detection.
Wouldn't it make more sense, though, to see that this is going on and then to take the ship and then go inform Blackbeard and let Blackbeard decide what he wants to do and pick up the scraps after everything happens?
I mean, a Den Mushi would do that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Right. So, like, that's what I mean. I was like, them infiltrating the island at this point doesn't make sense to me, but I do think that, like...
I don't think we're getting a follow-up on it until the end. I
Maybe.
think that's regardless of what happens, this is not a situation where Catalina Devon is going to like start a fight and we're going to have a big fight between her and Nami or whatever. Like, that's not happening. It's going to be some of that good old fashioned Blackbeard pirate subterfuge for sure. They want to see how this plays out and then take benefit from that. It's how they play. It's classic Blackbeard pirate behavior.
Yeah, they do it. I mean, that's the thing. They have time to recuperate. Like, they've had time to sort of recuperate after their respective fights. Blackbeard's probably, fine at this point. But I keep wondering what's going to happen in like the periphery. Not everybody's super far away. And is anyone going to come to Egghead Island to help? Is no one going to come, and it's just all going to be focused in here? I have so many questions.
I mean, it does look daunting, but I believe in our kids here. A little dose of Conqueror's hockey will make a big difference on that blockade. I think they weren't even ready for the dang robotic Sea Kings. That's already messing with them a little bit.
I
don't think this is Then you got pacifistas. I don't think this is going to be a thing where Luffy has to fight 30,000 Marines. I think this is going to be kind of a siege thing. And there are going to be variables that make this more complicated for them to hold out. It's noticeable they're all eating food. Food is going to maybe be a factor here. Now, Vegapunk can just generate food, but that's on the Fabro phase. That's down below. So there's potentially a limit to how much they can eat. And as we know, Luffy kind of needs to keep eating. It's a known thing.
If they find Caribou, doesn't he have some food?
Yeah, there's Caribou. That is absolutely a rogue factor in this, right? He does not want to get caught by Marines either, but I could see him maybe cutting a deal to, help get them through the blockade or take down Sentomaru. There's a couple of different things where he's going to be a wild card.
We spend so much time thinking and wondering and caring about who the traitor was, and it's like, is that Caribou? It's like, what's happening? And then Oda was just like, who cares? Like, why do you care? We're like, it's your story. What do you mean?
It's kind of amazing that he's the one who keeps putting Caribou like out there to remind us that he's there, like especially at the beginning of arcs.
Yeah, it's like he had an idea for him like 10 years ago,
and then just keeps effing him off, right? Just like, get out of here, man. That was funny. Goodbye.
Yeah, you're cramping our style. Like, what? Man. Okay, so I didn't have anything else. I'm ready to talk about the anime, Gear 5, but of course, give you one more chance. Like, is there anything else you want to tie off? Sanji's cow?
No, I think we Sanji's a little cow message. What a funny thing. No, I think that really covers everything that. I mean, this is a pretty stacked chapter, but yeah, I think we've covered everything for now. Very excited to see what the Egghead incident turns out to be in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there. I'm just like skimming around the chapter again. Yeah, I think we got it. I mean, we know that this fleet, 100 ships, it outclasses a Buster Call. I don't think I knew that for sure. 20 battleships. Yeah, the details there were pretty helpful, just to kind of get a better sense of the situation and the scale of the threat. But yeah, still a lot to come. All right, so Gear 5th anime, episode 1071 of the anime came last night, and I didn't watch it last night. I watched it this morning. I did not want to be part of the mess. I knew that the servers would have issues. I got to know though, did you watch the episode like around when it dropped, or did you wait too?
So and I messaged you, so I was trying.
You did.
So I did. I fired up my Crunchyroll app, but I've got an Android TV here, so I don't have to like do a whole lot of like casting or anything on this. But it's good. Well, quality panel. I really wanted to watch it on the good stuff. Fire up the Crunchyroll app, and that poor app was struggling so hard. You messaged
me in the evening. Crunchyroll doesn't have it up yet. Sad face.
Yeah, Crunchyroll doesn't have it up yet because I got in, scrolled all the way down the bottom. It wasn't there. So I'm like, well, crap. It probably just hasn't, dropped yet. So I didn't want to leave the app because I was in. I was like, the Crunchyroll app on a good day is it leaves a little bit to be desired. So
better than the High Dive app. And also, fair. I mean, I use it mainly iOS. iOS Crunchyroll app is okay.
Yeah, the mobile apps for Crunchyroll are pretty serviceable now, but the TV ones are still a little bit behind.
I don't even use them. I just mirror.
But yeah, I wonder how that would have gone last night too.
No, I wouldn't have bothered. I never watch anime on a TV though. I always watch it on like an iPad or my phone. So.
No, it's usually like I don't mind. Like I do a lot on my iPad actually, but for this was an event. This needed the good
Joy
TV.
Boy. This is the anime event of the year.
Yeah, this is the TV I bought specifically for like my PlayStation 5. This is where it needed to be. But did get it fired up, and all I did was just go back a couple of episodes and just rewatch those.
Oh yeah.
To wait for it, because I did not want to leave the app to think that I had left the page for some reason. So I did watch it last night, did get it pretty much as it dropped, and I'm very satisfied.
Yeah,
I will
good
say
stuff.
that was a pretty tall order. When you really think about it, that's a tall order.
I remember when the chapter dropped last year, and we were reading it like, how are they going to do this in the anime? Like, how do you just change your anime from your pirate epic saga, occasionally jokey anime, to Looney Tunes? And they were just like, oh, watch us. We'll just, what you said, like, we'll make it Looney Tunes, like here and there. And it's just full on, as you said earlier, he's just full on Bugs Bunny. And it's pretty perfect. It's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, I loved the translation of the energy of it, because
it's chaotic. You can't follow it most of the time.
This episode was really more about introducing the power than it was, I think, preceding the actual fight narrative too much until the end.
Yeah, there was only a little of that. I saw in the comments people were complaining, and I was like, okay, you're 14. Calm down. I was like, I'm disappointed. Like,
Toei will stretch anything out. We know that. It's long. I have roasted the anime plenty of times for that. They do, in fact, repeat animation in this episode. It's after the eye catch they do it, so when you come back from the commercial, we just don't get that anymore.
In their defense, I don't usually defend Toei. I mean, I can't believe I am right now, but that animation was so clean. So good.
You want to get your money's worth on that. Sure.
Exactly. They put a lot of resource into that. I didn't care, and I was like, oh, I like seeing that. That's fine.
I loved the choice to basically spend an entire episode just trying to get him to stay in frame. That is such a great way to demonstrate, I think, not just the goofiness, not just the energy, like the very, very lighthearted, fun, playful energy, but the very concept of him kind of being liberated, the very concept of him being free. We don't need him to break the fourth wall. He's breaking the very barriers of the camera. He's like impossible to capture in frame until he's laughing too hard to jump around. That's perfect. What a great way to capture that situation. You literally can't get him fully in frame until effectively the very end of the episode. He's covering his face. He's jumping around. He's stretching limbs everywhere. Like, you cannot get him all into one frame. And it's such a brilliant way to illustrate something that the manga was able to do pretty easily just through panel breaks and stuff, but the anime was always going to have a little bit of trouble with, and I think they really nailed it.
And the tone of it is a little bit different in one key way, where I remember, like, when in the manga, when he first transforms into Joy Boy, his inner, for one of the only times ever we get inner dialogue with Luffy, and it's him kind of wondering to himself, it's like, is this Gear 5th? Like, he's like trying to piece it together as well. But because it's the manga, you don't really know the tone of it. Like, you can kind of just think that, like, I remember a lot of us were confused of like, is he being possessed right now? Is this really Luffy? Now, over time, we were like, oh yeah, this is Luffy. But in that first bout, it was unclear. Here, I think that the anime is able to really get it across that, like, Luffy is in control. And that when he's sort of like, this is Gear 5th, it's a celebratory moment. Right. And I think there is something to be said about all the extra flourish of like how excited and ecstatic he is, being way easier to convey through like the audio-visual element in this. And also got to bring up, I mean, I like seeing a rubber fruit awaken. I know it's not a rubber fruit, but like just seeing how that plays out with like the ground below him as a trampoline. It reminds me of when we first started thinking of like, and I think it was around Dressrosa, where you're like, all right, so if this is an example of Doflamingo's devil fruit, a paramecia being awakened, where like the world around him changes, how would that be interesting for Luffy? Because like, then what? He's in a bouncy house? Like, that's lame. Like, how does that? And I don't think I didn't give Oda enough credit for imagining like, oh, because it becomes a cartoon, because this ultimately is a cartoon story. And yeah, I just think that I'm really glad that the anime understands that, and they found a way to make it work. Although, did you have any nitpicks on how it's being done so far?
I'm gonna say no. There was that little bit of recycled animation. That's always going to be a thing that I roast Toei for. It's not a One Piece unique thing. They love doing it. They will milk as much as they can. If there is anything, the cut to Hiyori, and I support women's rights and women's wrongs, so by all means, let's have this moment where she's condemning Orochi to death. It kind of throws the pace of the episode off a little bit, especially since it was so hyped as the Gear 5th episode, especially in Japan. They had banners, they had train ads. I mean, it was a huge deal. And I mean, it is a huge deal for the series. But there's this cut that kind of happens, and it happens in the manga too, so it's hard to hold it against the anime. But it really does, just like every other time it cuts away, it does hurt the pacing a little bit. And I think that throws people off, and then they have to cut back to the animation again. It looks so crisp and good, and
it's too bad because if it's not distracting from everything, it is a good scene, because I think that it is important, and it also I do think the moment where her mask comes off and the look on her face, and then Kanjuro setting Orochi on fire. I mean, it's intense. And if it had shown up in the last episode, shoot, we probably would have been oh yeah, that was in the episode too. But I do think that I feel bad for this scene, and the kind of weight it carries kind of almost being diminished, right, by the fact that it's interrupting I think this other big pivotal moment. But I don't know what they could have done, because they probably couldn't have tried to shoehorn it into the last episode, because then this episode would have the pacing might have been even worse, trying to make up that lost time.
It's doing the best that they can, but at this point we have now officially, with Orochi being cooked, we've closed all the doors. We've ended all the battles, for the most
there's
part,
more to come with Orochi.
Well, yeah, but in terms of the show kind of pointing out no, we are now going to cut back to the primary focus being Luffy versus Kaido. That's kind of what this is supposed to do. So, we know there's definitely more still coming, of course, because we've read it. But, from an anime pacing perspective, it was kind of a necessary evil. You kind of have to do it. Because now the next couple of episodes, this fight is still not done. We still got a little ways to go. But even the anime itself is now seeing the horizon. It's saying to itself, we are almost done. We swear we are almost to the end of this, because they got that beautiful ending credits song, which is the first time that anime has had an ending in 15 years. It feels like.
I found it very. Okay, we'll talk about the ED in a minute, but I do gotta put this out there. Just that if I had to nitpick something on this episode, it's that there were times when we're actually seeing the fight. Now it starts great. I think Luffy grabbing Kaido out of the dome and bringing him out and fighting him. There is just a moment there where you're just hell yes. I was so hyped. It was just so beautiful and well done and poetic, and it felt great. It's everything a shonen needs to do, right? There were times though in the fight, and I hope that it's not this bad in the next couple episodes, and maybe you disagree, but you even mentioned you can almost never have them in frame. There were times when it just didn't feel very fluid. I felt the action was so frenetic, and it was so sort of stutter in terms of seeing what was happening, that I couldn't follow it at all. And there was a range, I think, of how that worked to the anime's benefit. There were times where I thought it was great because it served the purpose of this is chaos. But then there were times where I was I do want to see a little bit. I kind of want to get a better idea of what he's doing. So I was a little bit more mixed on how all that got executed. But it is a nitpick, because I think ultimately it was such a cool experience seeing it at all. I just was oh man, is there a way for me to slow down the playback on this?
Yeah, I would say that it is kind of frenetic there at the end when he's oh, the fire's coming, whereas in the manga it was very straightforward, 2 panels of a reaction. They kind of stretched that out to quite a bit of animation. But for me, that all of that just gave me this really big trigger vibe, if anything. It was like watching a really frenetic episode of Panty and Stocking, or like an early Gurren Lagann episode where like it's just like it's almost hard to follow what's going on because the bounds of like what is even geography no longer matter. And so I feel like they were just kind of playing it up. But I would say that kind of the messy animation is not only the point here, but it's kind of what they've done a few times earlier in the fight as well, where it's almost less about depicting the actual kinetics of the fight, the actual choreography, and more about just letting certain animators or directors show off for a bit.
Oh, that's those sound effects, Travis.
Yeah, the sound effects.
I can hear them now. They're guiding my steps.
Of course you do, because they sound like they're right out of the Warner Brothers sound library.
Yeah, to the point where I was like, is Toei going to get its own DCMA complaints?
No, the way I was going to view it is Toei called up David Zaslav and said, hey, I heard you were having a fire sale on some sound.
Yeah, that's right.
And just bought it for dirt cheap.
Yeah. Okay, the ED. I don't like it. It makes me mad. Not because I have a problem with it. I've read the manga. I know what's going to happen, but you're killing the moment. Like, people are watching this and like they know in their hearts that they're going to win, but like they don't want to see it. Don't show the end of Wano in an ED. Like, no. Travis, why? I know that OPs do this all the time, but I thought we were getting better at this. I thought we were like starting to get way less obtuse about like, here are like 10 shots of things that are going to happen in like 3 months that like you probably wished they would have waited to show.
So my counterpoint to that is, of course, the ED is from Momonosuke's point of view. And
they at least don't show Momonosuke, I guess.
Yeah, they don't show Momonosuke, but it's from his point of view.
This is bad.
And when you keep that in mind, that's not what happens.
Nah, but I mean,
that's not what happens.
It
Something very
is,
different happens. No, he doesn't. He doesn't walk down to see them. It's the whole climax of Wano.
I don't know.
It's the conclusion.
They're like hanging out by the ship. It's showing everybody that like, oh yeah, the raid's going to be successful. And then the last 12 people from Morge's channel are going to be like, wait, but the raid fails.
I mean, it was always going to be that way though. Like you know, most EDs at least like hint at like themes and stuff. I think at this point, you know, again, barring people who have been put on lockdowns by me personally, everyone knows how this is going to end. Shueisha and Oda's team have all but basically said, you know, like Gear 5th was the centerpiece of One Piece Day for their big stream and everything. Like they've basically said, like, if you're not caught up, we do not know what to tell you. We gotta start selling Gear 5th stuff. We gotta start. It's happening is basically the message that One Piece Day sent, is like, it's happening. I don't think anybody is reasonably going to come to this and say, we just gave Luffy this massive, radically shifting, story changing power up, and then he's gonna lose. That's not how this is gonna work. So I guess at this point for me, it's fine.
People can draw different things from like who survives and like, you know, are they actually going to stay on the island long enough? Is there going to be some other, I don't know. I just think like from my own perspective of like, I just don't even show it to me. Just let's keep it 100. I don't know. But look at the bigger question, I think, is, are they going to keep the ED? Like, is this going to be, are they back? Are we back, Travis? Are we going to not have extra long OPs and then extra long recaps?
Oh, anymore? No, counterpoint, we're still going to have all of
that.
Oh,
yeah, we're going to have all of it. Yeah. The episodes themselves are going to be, so instead of 10 minutes of content, it'll be 7.
Yeah, that is more or less what I expect, because they did announce, and I thought there was going to be a new OP as well. I got to double check that, but yeah, they did announce like, hey, it's a new ED. This isn't like a special thing. This is happening now. We're serious anime again, and so yeah, I think that it is back. I do think we're going to get a new OP. Maybe not now, but as soon as Egghead's ready to start, it'll be a new OP, and yeah, they're absolutely gonna do what they've always done. Are you kidding? They're gonna be 2.5 minute OPs, and then they're gonna do the recaps. Though, you know, like I said, I went back and I watched a few episodes prior to watching Gear 5th because I was waiting for it to get uploaded, and they've been doing that a little bit less, not entirely, but like the Kid versus Law fight. the first
the
part
Kid
of
and
that,
Law versus Big Mom fight.
Kid and Law versus Mom. It actually has one of the best intros to a One Piece episode I think I've ever seen, because it's just Kid.
Yeah.
After he gets beaten up by Misery, like it's kind of a flash forward. He's kind of getting damned punk ready, and it does kind of like this flash through all of Kid's, the stuff that we know about Kid's life, and then like
stuff from his SBS.
Stuff from his SBS, like all really high resolution sketched, and then like he's about to get hit, and you hear Law cut through all this noise, and it's the only thing that comes through clear, and he moves, and it goes straight to title card, with no sound or anything, and I'm like, they have the capacity to do that more. They absolutely do.
I mean, this past year has been a turning point for them.
I think
like
so.
we should mention, for people who haven't been keeping up as long, they really shifted gears, no pun intended, in 2019, right? Where they had a new director, showrunner, I forget his name, but there was a dramatic change between the Reverie arc / Whole Cake Island, and like when we went into Wano, the art style changed, just the way everything is animated was changed, and over time we gradually started getting these kinds of episodes that were like every once in a while, and with increasing frequency once we reached this stage of the raid, right? You just get these banger episodes out of nowhere, and like in between you'll get like 4 or 5 that are just like standard One Piece like button pushing, but then you'll get like one of the best episodes of One Piece ever. And I think most people are fine with this arrangement because they know we can't get the best episode ever every time, and are like, look, I'll put up with the, I don't want to call it filler, but you know what I mean. It's like, I'll put up with the low quality sort of like connecting the dots content, if that means once in a while we get episodes that are so amazing that I forget that happened.
Yeah, it's just the nature of how One Piece is produced. And, especially for like newer anime fans who are coming to One Piece from your Jujutsu Kaisens, from
your younger fans who are like, we have seasons, right? Like, when's One Piece season?
That is still relatively, like, that's kind of what dominates the market now because Crunchyroll. But
it's so wild how quickly that changed.
It did change, I mean? and I think for the most part it changed for the better. I think we can all agree that anime that is allowed to just become this this full block of production, and you plan it all out, and you don't have to like come up with stuff in between when you catch up with the manga or anything like that. I think that's better for everyone. But One Piece is still not produced that way. They still got to have a One Piece episode like 50 weeks out of the year, barring unforeseen circumstances. So like there is just no way for them to be the best anime of the season, because it never ends. It never has a moment for them to take a little bit of extra time to do that. So the fact that they have been able to elevate the quality in spite of that is, I think, a testament to the work being done and the passion that I think the people working on this anime have, especially for Wano.
It's also a testament to the way that Oda writes the story, because he's able to give the anime a chance to add more to the world building. Like, there's a clear effort to not do filler as much, and to use the anime to basically fill out the notes that he probably has all the time. He probably edits out a lot of content, and because he's like, the anime will take care of it. And that's usually what happens. And so you can feel it when you're watching it that like, things are really padded out. There's a reason that it doesn't catch up with the manga. But I mean, it easily could, and we would have, I think it would be cool to have a seasonal One Piece, but that's just, no, I mean, it's the last of the big three to still be at its peak. I don't count Bleach, sorry. I don't think Bleach was ever part of the big three, unless you disagree. But
okay, no, I do have to ask that. What was the big three then?
Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. I was thinking of Dragon Ball. Sorry, never mind. Bleach was part of the big three.
Yeah, it's like, what do you mean?
Dragon Ball
my
was
entire
Grandpa.
World was gonna my entire world.
I was gonna be like Sword Art Online, Full Metal Alchemist. No shade. But yeah, sorry. I guess Bleach technically, but Bleach kind of transitioned to being seasonal, right? But because then it had its fall from grace, but like Boruto is still kind of doing the weekly thing, even though that's like the dumbest idea, because like, I mean, look at the ratio of filler to canon on Boruto, and then you'll throw up.
we discussed this in the Discord. We're eventually going to have the Naruto Boruto cope session that I think we both need for our own sanity.
I have some dark secrets when it comes to Boruto. Some stuff that you're going to hear and you're going to take your headphones off and walk away, maybe forever.
But like, I mean, I have been, people who've known me for years know how much I crap on Naruto and Bleach for kind of fumbling the bag at the end there. Bleach, of course, is the one of these that got canceled. And that's really what ultimately kind of did it a favor now for like 1,000 Year Blood War is it's treated like a whole separate series. It's a whole different production staff. It's still Studio Pirouette, which is great because they clearly still have a love for the material. And in my opinion, they have done nothing but elevate it in every sense of the word, save for the narrative. But they don't get to fix that. It would be interesting to see a version of One Piece that gets that same kind of treatment, but I don't foresee Toei of all companies.
No.
The company that won't let Goku die, like the second they realized they could just keep making Dragon Ball.
Not let Goku die. Won't let Goku not be the main character for longer than 10 seconds.
It's nuts.
It's pretty
nuts.
sad.
And now you see other Toriyama manga, like one shots and stuff, now starting to get mined for like lifelong content. If anything, I kind of dread the end of One Piece because I don't know what Toei is going to dare do to not have to let go of One Piece. I'm kind of paranoid about that.
The good news for that is we don't have to care because we have no attachments whatsoever. I mean, I hope the best for the staff and everything, but yeah, I mean, Toei has been such a thorn in the side of the fan community for so long. I'm just like, I couldn't care less about their fortunes when it comes to a post One Piece world. But with all that said, maybe that's a conversation for another day too. We'll be back next week. I don't know what we're going to do. We haven't decided on a topic or if we want to do another check-in, whatever. But no One Piece chapter next week. If you have any ideas for us and you're already in our Discord, please let us know. But if you're not in the Discord yet and the invites don't open up again until later on and it's too late or whatever, don't forget our email. Oh, I forgot our email, Travis.
Oh, don't worry. I got it for you. That's rookiepirateradio@gmail.com. And I'll say it again for you. I'll say it again. It's rookiepirateradio@gmail.com.
Music. When you said it, I don't think the podcast picked it up, but I heard drum beats and I myself was liberated. So thanks, everybody. We'll be back again soon. See ya.